Okay, then welcome to our Gardener community meeting. For today, we have one topic on our agenda. George will give an update on the structure and design of the website documentation. So I will hand over to him and stop sharing.
Thank you. Are we good with the sharing? Do you see my
Yes,
screen?
we can see it.
Yes.
So you remember that in the middle of May, we updated our external website, and one big piece that was left for after that was the documentation part, because it included not simply restyling the things, but it also refers to changing a little bit the structure to adapt it to the intention, the idea, and basically also how other similar sites are organized. So today there'll be no presentation. I'm just going to show you what I did recently. All the changes are waiting on a pull request, so I just wanted to do a final confirmation with everyone that this is the right direction. Of course, there are some glitches here and there, a little style polishings here and there, but I hope from what you see, you'll get the right impression of where things are going. So you'll be in the position to comment eventually if things are going fairly well or fairly wrong. So just as a refresher, that's somewhat a little older view. That's where, not older, but that's where we're coming from. And now click around to show you where we are going. So starting from the homepage, let's go to the documentation. Basically, the structure concepts follow the common concepts that you should be well familiar with from the Kubernetes site and the myriad of other sister-like sites in the same domain. There is a home screen, getting started for quick getting into the topic, then the concepts, basically what it is, and general establishments around the project, then the Howto Guides, tutorials, reference, which at the moment is only API reference, but at some point of time it's we're going to include probably here also the Garden CTO reference or other if they come up, and finally the contributions, the contributors guide. So as I said, that more or less follows structures that are familiar from the Kubernetes side. You see the obviously same pattern here. You can also observe similar things here in Knative, although Knative is a little bit rudimentary in terms of that. We also see similar pattern in Istio. So it should be well familiar for people that are into this domain. So the homepage itself is kind of an entry point. Like here I intend to show latest material on top or here. Currently it's not implemented. I'm just showing you the idea. Similar to the news that we have on the landing page, so that you can get informed about really the latest things that have been contributed in terms of documentation. Then these tabs here, they're clickable, which is especially handy on a mobile, and you can, they kind of explain in a little bit more details what's the intention behind the different sections. Obviously, this is intended mostly for really newcomers to the website, and it's a good practice to have something like an entry point to documentation where you have multiple sections, so that the people don't have to click around to find this out. Not that they're not going to click around, but it's kind of etiquette. And getting started, as I said, I'm going to use it also to show you a few updates on the layouts of the pages. Currently, what you see here, I reused obviously the getting started from the Gardener docs, just to have something. But obviously, this is not the getting started we are aiming to, because this one it's intended as to have a similar role to the whole website here. And instead of duplicating things like where to get feedback, support, and stuff, what I actually mean by a getting started guide is rather something that can get you started in, say, 30 minutes or so, just to accomplish something astonishing with a few steps and really get going, even if it's under a lot of conditions and constraints, but to get going fast. We have to come up with something in that regards, and obviously here it's a little bit a dual story, because we can approach this from the angle of installing Gardener, or we can approach this from the angle of consuming Gardener as a service. Both are valid. So if you have suggestions, most welcome. How to make it really impressive and winning getting started, and most of all short. I said I'm going to use the page to introduce you several new things that you're going to notice. As you see, the changed contributors section. Now it's a lot more GitHub-ish. On smaller screen, let me just shrink this a bit. On smaller screen, it reduces to this, so you can go and inform yourself for more details on directly on the GitHub page about this. I could evolve this even more if you think that's needed, like exactly on the GitHub. If you hover, you can get the details for the user. Currently, I went with a simplistic solution where basically you see the name on hover, and clicking on an icon, you can use the email to write an email to that user. On the right-hand side, you get an update about the last information about the last update on the page, and there is a changed edit icon for the page. So that's kind of, I hope that this top bar header kind of conveys the message that the documentation is live and is actually something that everybody can contribute to. Another change you'll notice is at the bottom. The astonishing pink cover is gone, and what we have now is a little bit not that emphasized, but still quite visible way to, you know, submit issues and stuff. Actually, if you look at a lot of the other sites out there, you'll notice those thumbs up and thumbs down buttons. And when you click one of them, you see similar link, like how can you improve, or what did you like, depending on if you have the thumbs up or thumbs down. And then a link to GitHub to share more details, for example, or for the sites that use Discuss for comments to Discuss. We're not there yet. I simply didn't have the time to, but obviously this can evolve also there. One interesting thing that I noticed that people employing this pattern are doing is that actually they tie Google Analytics to the impression that people are giving with the thumbs up and thumbs down. So even if somebody does not want to spend time to provide a particular feedback, what was wrong or what was good, even a simple thumb up or thumb down is counted, and then can be monitored from Google Analytics as a measure of contents. That's also one direction where we can go, or we can keep it as simple as you can see it now. Okay, proceeding next, there is a new section, concepts. By the way, the structures that you see on the left, they're quite tentative. On this stage, I've made the effort to make it possible to show it here and there. The content, the structuring of the content, and also polishing the content and working with this is going to be a lot longer ongoing effort. So I'm just establishing the ground to be able to focus on the content rather on the frame on the website that supports that right now. Word of caution, here and there you won't be seeing contributors or last update. I don't know if you noticed, but right now I'm showing the changes from my local machine. So they're still not submitted, hence there are no contributors or last update. But as soon as they appear on the website, you'll see a very similar layout as you saw on the Getting Started page. So the idea here is, I won't get too much into detail about the structure on the left, but it's kind of obviously I've taken some paragraphs from, again, from the Gardener docs section, the concept section. I've added here also the extension part. Here for this one, obviously I'm using directly the remote markdown from there. So this is why we have contributors and everything. Here's a reminder for one more addition that you probably have noticed already on the documentation side. I've changed a bit the code box, the formatting of the code box. It now resembles a little bit more for example, the style on Istio. And also the functions here are styled a little bit different, but again, you have the download of the code snippet that also takes care to format it. If it's, for example, bash, it removes the $ sign in front, if there is one, or directly copy to clipboard if you want to do it this way. Now this works for really for code blocks, meaning those code snippets that are inside triple backquotes. And in general, the pattern that should be followed is that really something that's longer than a couple of words, or basically anything that will not accommodate on a small screen, like in about 250, 80, something like that pixels width. It should be put in a code block rather than an inline code block, because it really breaks the layout, and there is almost nothing that I can really do about that with styling, I mean. So that's one change. The style that you see for inside the code snippet itself, it's based on Visual Studio Code. That's a feature that's directly inherited from Hugo. And it's based on one extension of their Markdown interpreter that's called that's around highlighting. It's called Chroma, and it has its roots in some I think Python-based similar technology that was called Pigmenta, if I'm correct, and it seems to be quite popular there. What I'm trying to say is that basically this is obviously a generated style. This one is not particularly spectacular. When I click around, probably I'm going to find out a better one with more keywords highlighting and stuff. But basically, what I'm trying to say is that this is just style, and it can be changed, for example, to dark or the other way around, or some other. There are ready-made styles for you know, like for Emac, similar to Emac, or other popular editors as well. So there are options here. Anyway, continuing to Howto Guides. Now, this has been discussed previously, and I made a few experiments. So what changed here is the options to explore the guides. Now, we currently have in total 42 guides and tutorials, and I expect that this number is going to increase significantly as we start now to work more cautiously about the documentation and introduce things there. So you can expect that the flat list or something is not really explorable. Therefore, I've added functions to filter stuff by different criteria. Currently, unfortunately, I cannot show you this because one leftover is to enable the script to work. But basically, you have filters by different categories to which the different tasks are assigned with their front matter metadata, by different types of audiences, by different expertise, or by date, by title. Basically, it depends. This filtering depends on the metadata that's available with each Markdown document that we list here. And there is also free-form filtering that can filter by tags, for example, or the name of the tasks. Now, In principle, I can show here also things like the description of the tasks. The thing is that currently we don't maintain too much meaningful descriptions. In their majority, they basically repeat the title. So for now, I have hidden it. But if you think it makes sense, and it's going to be informative and useful, for example, on the homepage of the Howto Guides, I can very easily add that as well. Here, I try to keep it a bit more concise. I was even not sure, should I include also the audiences and expertise level for the different tasks, but I added it as a hint that it is possible also to filter by this criteria. Okay, apart from that, to accommodate also people that are more accustomed to not to use that GitHub is like, you know, filtering of more or less fraud content, but more to tree-like content that's organized in some structure. I have added also a tentative structure on the left, so you can see some tasks along different, you know, kind of folders. That also helps a bit with the content from content production perspective, meaning that if you want to write a guide, if you have a flat list of I don't know, maybe 80 folders at some point of time or something like this, it's going to be difficult to find the one that you really want to edit or something. So if you want to look at the backend, for example, how it looks like, how physically it is organized, for example, the guide section currently looks like this. Let me just expand it. This is the section. It's going to be kind of hard-coded structure that we have to agree on and put content inside. And it's displayed in the way that it looks here. Okay, next is tutorials, which is a very similar concept, except that tutorials are really hard sometimes to put in anything more than a category. So this is why I didn't think that it makes quite a lot of sense to add a similar tree structure for them. And besides, they're going to be a lot less. Currently, you see 42 simply because I'm blindly iterating over all the content. That includes also tasks, not only tutorials, but we have to go over the whole material and really split out only the tutorials from it. While I was doing this task for the tasks, I also came upon several tasks or tutorials, call it whatever you want, that are even more blocks. So we have to move some things from there as well, maybe towards the docs. So there's going to be a reshuffling of content here and there. And here I mentioned that it's quite unfortunate that the GitHub API does not support following actions like move, unlike Git itself. So when I move something around, basically the history is lost as far as the GitHub API is concerned. And we're using GitHub API obviously to get the commits and the history for the different files, so I can show you who are the contributors and when was the last update and stuff like this. So we have to reconsider also how we do this, and if we can directly use local Git, for example, and just amend with additional information like the avatars and stuff. That's something that's pending and needs to be decided upon. Otherwise, we'll lose the history, particularly for the contributors. Okay, hurrying up to the end, I mentioned the API reference, so basically not much changes here, except of course the layout and how it looks overall. And the contributors guide, again, I haven't made any changes to the structure or anything, just the way it looks and the overall look and feel. So concluding now, this is my proposal for a top-level structure. One last thing before I finish, let me just show you this left-hand side structures that you see. They're collapsible for now, like this. So you can, on mobiles, you can still navigate this type of second level or even third level navigation. But this is kind of a temporary solution because if they trees are notorious about mobiles, and generally a better pattern would be to have sort of a sliding structure where you can go no up and down, expanding and collapsing different items with some indentation, but rather a slight left and right moving along the tree in this way. This will also affect the general tree that we have here, the general top level navigation, which currently is a simplistic solution that basically lists everything up to 5 levels depth. But obviously here it becomes ugly, and it actually emphasizes my point why sliders left and right to move along the tree is a better pattern than a tree itself. So there will changes around this as well. But for now, I think we can live also with the solution that we already have here. So yeah, that's what I wanted to show you and gather some feedback. How do you feel about this? And again, focusing mostly on the frame around that, the top level structure, how things are laid out here and there. What's your overall feeling? And yeah, one last mention from my side before I shut up is one big thing that is missing and is coming up right next. It's big if you have noticed, but if you have noticed, there is no search around yet. So right next thing that I'm going to do is to enable search. And my initial idea and design was to have the search globally here, right beside the documentation. Another option is to include it here as a last item right beside contribute, for example, like it's on Kubernetes IO site, for example. These are options, and your feedback is welcome. So now I open up for feedback if somebody wants to share. You still there?
Yes, I think it was well presented.
Thank you. Of course, if everybody is cool with that, like I said, I'm on a pull request and I have to fix a few glitches with heading styles here and there, and the JavaScript for the filtering here to actually hide things when you filter. And I'll be good to go. Probably next week you're going to be able to see it live on the website. So if there are no outstanding showstoppers according to everyone, I'm going to proceed with this.
Yes, I think it sounds good, and it's also very attractive, I guess, for the community, and hopefully you also get some feedback.
Okay.
So if there are no more questions, then we are at the end for today's community meeting. I hope you all have enjoyed the presentation from Georgie, and I wish you all a nice weekend. Thanks for attending.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.